I swear I wasn't supposed to hear it. The soft knock at my door just past midnight. My headphones were still on, screen glowing, and for a second I thought I imagined it. But then, there it was again. Slower this time, almost hesitant. When I opened the door, I didn't expect her. It was Clara, my best friend's mother. Mid-40s, graceful in a way that didn't come from youth but from something lived in. Something she carried without effort. Her robe hung loose around her frame, tied at the waist, but her posture was careful, like she had already debated this moment 100 times before choosing to knock. "I couldn't sleep," she said, her voice low, almost apologetic. Then, after a pause, her eyes held mine. "And I can't sleep alone." The words hung there, heavier than the night air, and for a moment all I could do was stare. I should back up. She'd been around my whole life, but lately, it felt different. Maybe because I wasn't a kid anymore. Maybe because her laughter seemed softer when it was just the two of us in the kitchen. Maybe because she'd started asking me things no one else did. How I was really doing, whether I felt out of place, whether anyone had ever truly seen me. It wasn't flirting. Not exactly. But it wasn't just small talk either. Earlier that day, we'd sat in the living room together, the house too quiet while my friend was out. She had asked me to help fix a lamp that wouldn't turn on. Our hands brushed when she passed me the bulb, and neither of us moved away immediately. Just a pause. A small pause, but it felt like the room took notice. That pause was still echoing now, hours later, with her standing at my door. "You don't have to let me in," she whispered, as though she realized what her presence implied. Her fingers fidgeted with the tie of her robe, tightening, loosening, then tightening again. I didn't want to be alone tonight. I tried to say something casual, something that would make this less charged. But my throat caught. All I managed was, "Are you sure?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she looked at me the way people look when they're weighing every possible consequence in a single glance. Her eyes lingered too long, just enough that my chest tightened. And suddenly, I couldn't unsee all the details. The way a loose strand of her hair curved against her cheek. The way her bare feet shifted slightly against the carpet, nervous but grounded. I stepped aside. She entered slowly, like testing the edges of a decision. The robe brushed against my arm as she passed, and the contact was so slight, so unbearably slight, that I almost stopped breathing. We didn't sit. We didn't speak. For a long, stretched moment, it was just the quiet thrum of my computer fan and her breathing behind me. Finally, she broke it. "You don't have to say anything," she murmured, standing near my desk, fingertips grazing the edge as if she needed the furniture to steady herself. "I just feel safe here." The word safe landed differently than she meant it to. Or maybe she meant it exactly that way. I turned, and when I did, she wasn't looking at the desk anymore. She was looking at me, her hand lifted slightly, like she meant to touch my arm but stopped halfway. The hesitation was louder than any touch could have been. Then, almost imperceptibly, her voice lowered. "Tell me, should I go back?" She asked it so softly I almost thought I imagined it. "Tell me, should I go back?" The responsible part of me wanted to nod, to step aside, to let the moment dissolve into silence. But my mouth wouldn't form the word yes. Because here's the truth. This was dangerous. Not just because she was older, not just because she was my best friend's mother, but because she had trusted me in ways that felt heavier than any friendship. She let me see cracks no one else saw. The late-night talks in the kitchen. The way she'd pause before answering when I asked if she was happy. And I think she knew I noticed. "Clara?" I finally managed, but her name left my lips in a tone that betrayed me. Too careful, too intimate. She shifted, the robe slipping just slightly at her shoulder before she tugged it back into place. She didn't look embarrassed. More like cautious. "I didn't mean to wake you. It's just," she exhaled, shaking her head. "Ever since the divorce, The nights feel longer than the days. I thought time would make it easier, but it hasn't. I hear every creak in the house. Every shadow feels louder. Her voice cracked at that last word, and she covered it with a small laugh, the kind people use when they're trying not to cry. And in that moment, the dangerous part wasn't her standing in my room. It was the ache in her voice, the kind that makes you want to hold someone even when you know you shouldn't. I tried to steady myself by focusing on anything else. The faint lavender scent clinging to her robe, the way her fingers curled around the edge of my desk, knuckles paling with the grip, the tired lines near her eyes, softened by the dim light. I shouldn't have noticed any of it, but I did, and every detail pulled me deeper into the quiet gravity between us. "You don't have to explain," I said quietly, though part of me wished she would. Her gaze lingered on me longer than it should have. "No one else listens," she whispered, almost to herself. "I mean, people talk, they give advice, they tell me I'll be fine. But no one just sits with me. You do." That confession landed heavy. Too heavy. Because it wasn't just gratitude in her tone, it was need. The room felt smaller now, as if the walls had leaned closer to hear. My chest was tight. Every word I wanted to say catching on the edge of my throat. Tell her you shouldn't. Tell her this isn't right. But instead, what came out was softer, weaker. "You deserve someone who does." For a heartbeat, silence. Then her hand moved, almost instinctively, brushing against my arm. Just a graze, but enough to send a sharp current through me. She didn't pull away this time. "Then stay with me a little longer," she murmured, voice fragile, but steady enough to leave no doubt what she meant. Her hand stayed on my arm longer than it should have. Long enough that I stopped pretending it was nothing. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, though her touch contradicted the words. I swallowed hard. Neither should I. I thought if I just kept still, the tension would fade. But instead it grew, in the silence, in her closeness, in the way her robe brushed against my wrist when she shifted slightly toward me. "I don't want to make this complicated," she said softly. "You've been kind to me, and I don't know if I'm misreading things." The air caught between us, sharp and fragile. My voice cracked, so I tried again. "You're not misreading." Her eyes widened. Not shocked, not offended, but like I had just admitted something she had been holding back herself. The robe loosened slightly when she turned toward me, the tie slipping under her hand, but she didn't fix it this time. The space between us narrowed. Not just physical, but emotional. Like two people standing at the edge of a truth they'd promised never to say out loud. Then, suddenly, a sharp vibration shattered it. My phone. The sound sliced through the room like a warning bell. I scrambled for it, the screen lighting up with a name I couldn't ignore. My best friend. For a second, the world felt like it had snapped back into place. The reality of who she was and what this meant rushed over me. I declined the call, my pulse racing. When I looked back, Clara was watching me, her arms folded loosely, like she had just remembered too. But instead of stepping away, she tilted her head slightly and asked, "Does he call you this late often?" Her tone wasn't casual. It was edged with something, jealousy, fear, couldn't tell. "I don't know why he called," I said, voice unsteady. "But if he knew you were here." I stopped myself. The unfinished sentence weighed between us. "If he knew," she repeated, quieter. Her eyes dropped, and for the first time, I saw something raw flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or the realization that this wasn't just her loneliness anymore. It was mine too. She turned away slightly, her hand brushing her temple as though trying to compose herself. "You should tell me to leave," she murmured. I should have. Every part of me screamed it. But instead, I stood and closed the space she'd left between us. My hand almost reached for hers before I pulled back at the last second. The restraint hurt more than the touch would have. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "Why didn't you?" she asked quietly. eyes locking with mine. I couldn't answer. Because the truth was simple. I didn't want her to go. Her lips parted, like she was about to say something she'd regret, or something that would make it impossible to turn back. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Her question, "Why didn't you?" still rang in the air, demanding an answer I couldn't give. "I don't know," I said finally, the words sharp with frustration, but not at her, at myself. "Because I can't pretend this is nothing. Not when it feels like—" I stopped. The rest caught in my throat. "Feels like what?" she pressed. Her voice wasn't angry. It was trembling, as if she was terrified of the answer but couldn't stop herself from asking. "It feels like I've been waiting for you to walk into my life like this," I said, quieter than a whisper. "Even if I wasn't supposed to." Her breath hitched, and in the dim light, I saw her robe slip a little lower on her shoulder. But she didn't move to fix it. Instead, she stared at me, her eyes burning with something I couldn't decipher. Relief? Fear? Desire? "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered back. But she didn't move away. I laughed under my breath, bitter and soft. "Neither should you." For a long moment, nothing existed except the small distance between us. The air hummed with everything unspoken. Her fingers flexed at her side, as if she wanted to reach for me but held herself back. Finally, she exhaled, shaky. "Do you think I don't feel it too?" The confession nearly knocked me backward. My chest tightened, and every rational thought, every warning, collapsed under the weight of it. "You do." My voice was rough, uncertain. Her eyes glistened, and she nodded. "God help me, I do. And it scares me." The honesty between us felt heavier than any touch could. I stepped closer before I even realized it. Close enough to see the faint freckles on her skin, the way her lashes trembled when she blinked. "Then why are you here?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. "You knew what it would mean." She flinched slightly, not at my tone, but at the truth in it. "Because I was lonely," she whispered, her words cracking. "Because I wanted to feel seen again. And because, when I look at you, I don't feel my age. I just feel alive." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Every piece of me wanted to close that final inch between us, to silence the trembling in her voice with the certainty of my touch. But then silence. Not empty, not peaceful. A loaded silence, thick and fragile, the kind that makes the world tilt. She met my eyes, her expression torn open, raw and defenseless. And then, almost inaudible, "What do we do now?" Her question, "What do we do now?" still trembled in the room when my phone lit up again. The same name, my best friend. This time I didn't reach for it. I just stared at the glowing screen until it went dark again. Clara followed my gaze, and the flicker of fear across her face was unmistakable. "He knows," she whispered, not certain, but as if she could already feel the truth pressing in. I shook my head quickly. "He doesn't. He can't." But the certainty wasn't in my voice. She pulled the robe tighter around herself, finally conscious of it again. "Do you think I haven't thought about what it would mean? For him. For us." Her words cracked. "He trusts you. And I—" She stopped, catching herself, like she had just been about to confess too much. My pulse hammered. "And you what?" Her silence said enough. I wanted to close the space again, but something inside me tugged backward. Her son. My best friend. All the late nights we'd spent in this house, joking, playing games, raiding the fridge like it belonged to both of us. He'd never once suspected I noticed her differently. But then she looked at me, really looked, and I saw it. The truth she had been burying for months. "I knew," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I knew the way you looked at me. I told myself it was my imagination, or that you'd grow out of it, or that I was projecting." She shut her eyes tight, her hand covering her mouth for a moment. But then I caught myself looking back. Too long. Too often. Her words cut through me. Not because they were shocking, but because they were everything I had been afraid to hope was true. I thought it was just me, I said quietly. Her hand dropped from her lips, and the smallest, broken laugh escaped her. If it were just you, I wouldn't be standing here. The revelation hit harder than any kiss could have. We both froze in the wake of it, realizing this wasn't an accident anymore. It wasn't just loneliness or late-night weakness. It was two people staring at the truth they had been circling for far too long. Then another sound. A knock. Both of us jolted. My chest tightened. It wasn't her son, it was too light, too hesitant. A neighbor maybe, or nothing important at all. But in that moment, the knock felt like the world itself reminding us that we weren't alone in this. That if we kept going, someone would find out. Her eyes flew to mine, wide, panicked. And yet, she didn't move away. Instead, her whisper broke the silence. If I leave now, we'll never come back to this moment. Do you understand? The knock faded, leaving only silence. She was still standing there, her robe drawn close now, but her eyes, God, her eyes, were wide and raw, like she'd finally said too much and couldn't take it back. If I leave now, we'll never come back to this moment. Do you understand? Her words landed heavy. My chest ached with the weight of them. I wanted to be the good one. I wanted to tell her to walk away, to protect her from me, from herself, from what this would mean if anyone ever knew. But when I opened my mouth, the truth clawed its way out instead. I don't want you to leave. Her breath caught. Her grip on her robe faltered. I stepped closer, slow, deliberate, as though one wrong move might shatter everything. My hand hovered, then finally found hers. The moment our fingers touched, she let out the smallest, broken sound, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. Clara? I whispered, her name like a prayer and a curse all at once. I've tried to stop this. I've told myself every reason why it can't happen. But none of them make me want you any less. Her eyes glistened, tears threatening but not falling. She squeezed my hand tighter. You think I don't hate myself for this? She said, voice trembling. I've told myself it's wrong, that it's reckless, that I'll regret it. But then I see you and She shook her head. I can't keep pretending anymore. The confession cracked something open in both of us. I lifted my free hand to her cheek, almost expecting her to pull away. But she leaned into it instead, her warmth sinking into my palm. Then don't, I said softly. Don't pretend. The words hung there, daring her, daring me. And then, finally, she closed the space. Her lips pressed to mine, tentative at first, then urgent, years of restraint breaking in a single breath. My hands trembled as they held her. Not from fear, but from the unbearable relief of finally having what I'd been aching for. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, both of us breathless. This changes everything, she whispered. I nodded. It does. But neither of us let go. Because despite the danger, despite the impossibility, the truth was undeniable. This wasn't going away. Not anymore. For the first time since she knocked on my door, the silence didn't feel loaded. Felt chosen. Her thumb brushed over my knuckles, gentle, steady. Promise me, she whispered. Promise you what? That you won't regret this. I swallowed hard, meeting her eyes. I couldn't. Not with you. Her eyes searched mine as though my promise wasn't enough. As though words alone could never carry the weight of what we'd just crossed. And maybe she was right. So instead of answering again, I kissed her hand. Slow, steady, the kind of gesture that says more than 1,000 reassurances could. For the first time all night, she exhaled like the fight inside her had finally loosened its grip. You make it sound so easy, she whispered. I shook my head. It won't be easy, but it'll be real. And that was the difference. The hours that followed blurred into something quiet, fragile, and impossibly human. We didn't rush. We didn't pretend we had all the answers. We just sat together, her head resting on my shoulder, my fingers tracing idle patterns across her hand, letting the silence fill with something new. There was no more hiding behind excuses, no more half-steps and unspoken words. We had finally said the things we had buried for too long, and the honesty between us felt heavier and more sacred than the risk itself. When dawn crept through the blinds, she stirred beside me. The robe was pulled close again, but her posture was different now, softer, lighter, as if a burden had been set down. "I don't know where this takes us," she admitted quietly. "With him, with the world. But I know one thing." I tilted my head, waiting. "I don't want to go back to pretending we don't feel this." Her voice cracked on the last word, and without thinking, I drew her closer. "Then we won't." It wasn't a plan, not really. But it was a choice. And sometimes a choice is enough. Looking back, I think that's what this night was about. Not some reckless mistake. Not a stolen moment we'd regret in the morning. It was about being seen, truly seen, after years of silence and loneliness. For her, it was about feeling alive again. For me, it was about finally speaking the truth I'd been carrying in every glance, every brush of the hand, every moment I'd stood too close without admitting why. We crossed a line, yes, but it wasn't just forbidden, it was inevitable. And sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that make us most human. By the time the sun was up, she kissed me once more, softer this time, like sealing something fragile and permanent. And when she pulled back, her smile was small but certain. No more questions. No more should we? Or what if? Just us.